You?
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Kingdom Lump Small Town Underground. It is Wednesday night, and boy, do we have a show for you guys this evening. So, as I'm getting set up here, I just want to remind everybody that tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. at right here in Lafayette on the square, we are going to be having a tactical civics meeting. So, what is tactical civics? You can look back on some of my videos and you can get kind of familiarized with tactical civics. We're going to have some speakers coming in. There will be some food and some snacks, some drinks there, and it will be right here on the square in Lafayette. So I urge anybody, the people that have already reached out, of course, I'm sending out all the information. If you want to join us tomorrow evening here in Lafayette for an introduction to tactical civics, I think it'll be a great thing. It's something that we need to look at in our area. So please, please, please feel free to come and bring a friend, and we're going to be sitting down, and everybody's going to be meeting, and we're going to talk about what it is and how you can get involved in your local area. So thank y'all for tuning in tonight. Just let me know if everything's going out. We're still having trouble because I've been gone and I haven't had a chance to get all of the Streamlabs worked out. So we're only streaming to YouTube and Facebook tonight, but soon we'll be streaming to Rumble, TikTok, and I do have an upload for Twitter. So we're just going to continue to get this out more and more. And as always, you can share this. You can share it to your friends. You can share this to your groups, anybody that you're with, so we can just continue to get the word out, continue to have conversations, and just continue to move forward in this idiocracy of a clown world that we're living in. So without further ado, I have two guests with me this evening, and as you no doubt know, that there was a pride parade. I believe it was called the Trans Queer Parade that had happened in Floyd County over the weekend, and there were 4 people that got arrested at this event, and they were peaceful protesters. So right here sitting next to me are 2 of these people that got arrested. So what we want to do is we want to hear their side of the story, find out what was going on, and just have a conversation. So without further ado, I'm going to let you both just tell us who you are, anything about yourself, your activism, and then we'll go from there. Okay?
Sure. I'm Brad Barnes. I'm from Rome, Georgia. I'm the chairman of the Etowah Republican Assembly. I ran for State House in District 13 for the state of Georgia, which is also in Rome, last cycle. And, I've worked on election integrity, on, these sorts of, CRT and critical queer theory stuff in the schools, and, the sorts of events that we were protesting the other day. And just to clarify, there were 2 activists arrested. That's Angela and I, and 2 citizen journalists arrested, which was Melissa and David, who were arrested for filming our arrest. So just want to clarify that. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Angela Rubino. I've made, I've landed myself in the newspaper a few times. I guess speaking out and just kind of putting everybody on notice on what's actually happening here in Rome. So I guess that's a bad thing. A lot of people don't like it, but someone's got to do it.
Absolutely correct. And Floyd County, it's a wild place. It's half like Atlanta suburb type, and it's just growing, and it's just, what can you say?
It's growing, but not
Not in the
growing
good way.
It's not in a good way. It's
Right.
growing in a cancerous way.
Sure.
Rome is sort of like the Bermuda Triangle of
Sure,
Northwest Georgia.
absolutely.
It's
I
its
agree.
own little. It's its own little weird world. It's been kind of isolated on its own for, about a century, and so it has its own weird ways about the world.
Gotcha.
You know?
Okay. Well, folks, this is literally the first time that I got to meet these two. I did remember seeing him at the town hall for Marjorie Green here in Lafayette, and bringing up some problems and some things they had going on. So, like I said, we're just going to kind of dive into this a little bit, and then I'm going to start with the first thing, which was, and I'm going to share this, and of course I can't split screen it, but this is from. Let's see, GeorgiaRA.com. So, pro-family activists arrested for peacefully protesting Rome trans queer pride parade. Okay? So, I'm just going to go into this a little bit if you don't already know. Rome, Georgia, this was on the 24th. Today, a group from the Etowah Republican Assembly led a protest against the city of Rome's trans queer pride parade. They were joined with members from a local church and other concerned citizens. Police arrested 4 of them as they peacefully waved signs from the sidewalk in view of the people participating in the parade. The second annual event for the city features a trans men dressed as women performing highly sexualized dances and other acts, although it was marketed as a family-friendly event that children were encouraged to attend. One witness reported a 4-year-old boy wearing a girl's dress. The child's parents encouraged him onto the stage with the drag queens, where one drag queen grasped his hand and attempted to induce him to dance with him. This child seemed terrified and bolted from the stage. The protesters believe sexually provocative events like these should be restricted to adult entertainment and not be permitted in the public or in the presence of children. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to ask a couple questions. So first off, what is your take, just before we get into the meat and potatoes? Like, tell us about this parade. It's self-labeled the Trans Queer Parade, correct?
So the organizers try, and this happens. You see the same phenomenon with BLM. BLM tries to say, if you criticize them, you're criticizing all black people. And, they try to insinuate that they're the representative of all black people, and the same sort of dynamic is happening with the Rome Trans Queer Pride for Kids organization.
Okay.
So they themselves label themselves as just simply Rome Pride.
Okay.
So that when you criticize the involvement of children and the trans queer plus ideology that they're pushing, they go, "Oh, you're attacking gay people, or you're attacking lesbians, bisexuals," which that's kind of the switcheroo that they pull. So they themselves don't call it a trans queer pride for kids event, but that is indeed what it is, and we feel like we should speak the truth as to what is actually going on,
right? And
label, call a spade, essentially.
Understood.
Right. And so this is their second annual Sodom and Gomorrah on the Coosa, and we protested last year. We protested along the top of the levee in Rome, which, if you're not familiar with Rome, Rome has 3 rivers in its downtown, the Etowah, the Usanala, and then they come together to form the Coosa.
Okay.
But because of its position on the river, flooding was a major problem for most of the city's history. So at a certain point, the Army Corps of Engineers came in through an act of Congress and built a levee system around the city. Okay. So the park that the event is held at, Heritage Park, is the little strip of land between the Coosa River and the levee. Okay. And so we last year were positioned on top of the levee where we could be seen by anyone down in the kind of lowland area between the river and the levee. Okay. And so that's important because that's actually where the church group had, and so we protested last year. Angela and I had no permit last year. It was no problem.
Okay.
So the church group put in for a permit at that same location this year as last year, and under the pretense of time, place, and manner restrictions, which federal law, federal Supreme Court precedents only allow for public safety purposes and for crowd control purposes.
Okay.
Under the pretense of that, they moved the church group across the river and to the other side of downtown. Right. Okay.
Not even within. Were they even?
They were not in view of the
in
event
the
throughout the
vicinity of
day.
the event.
They were at the staging location for the Trans Queer Pride Parade that preceded the events in the park. But the police did that so that within 5 to 15 minutes, the parade had gone past, and then they were just standing in no man's land on the other side of downtown.
Really?
While the pride stuff went on, for another 8 to 12 hours.
Wow.
So, I mean, that was their first illegal action of the day. And so Angela and I had gone over to the protest with the church. That's the first location of protest.
Okay.
And, we told the other folks there that we would be proceeding over to the actual event afterwards, which we did. And we set up in front of River City Bank, which is private property. Okay. And that's important because the city of Rome's public assembly ordinance specifically excludes private property. It's not possible to get a permit from the city of Rome to assemble or to protest on private property.
Okay.
And so we then saw Officer DeHart, the notorious dirty cop, Officer DeHart, come down from the top of the levee where he had fortified a position where we previously had protested to make sure that no one went up there to protest.
So they already had the previous year's spot kind of already
fortified. Right.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. And if anyone had gone up there to protest, they would have instantly cuffed them.
Okay.
And we knew that. And, we read the law. We followed the law. The Rome police broke the law. We know the law. We know the Supreme Court precedents.
Right.
We knew what we were allowed legally to do. And the police of Rome, Officer DeHart, broke the law.
Okay.
And so the first thing he did, he saw protesters at the end of the bridge that goes over the river there, right at the exit point from the park.
Okay.
And so he gave those people a dispersal order. I'm told that they were from the local Catholic church in Rome.
Now you're talking about what the report is saying, that it was the church.
So this was a different church than the
Okay,
first
so there
church.
were more protesters there than what the articles are saying.
Yes.
The article makes it believe that there was just a one man with some of his congregation and 4 of you guys,
right.
and that's it.
No,
So there were more.
There was more.
Okay.
There was they looked like, and we were maybe 200 feet down the street.
Did they have a permit?
No, they didn't. But they don't need one because just standing in a public place with a piece of paper with writing on it is not something that federal precedent requires you to have a permit for. Permitting is according to federal jurisprudence for gaining additional rights. You have a right to assembly. You have a right to freedom of speech. You don't have a privilege. And the difference between a right and a privilege is you ask for permission to use a privilege.
Okay.
A permitting process is there to get additional rights to things that normally would be illegal. For example, I want to shut down a public park for a demonstration. Permit. I want to shut down a street to do a parade. Permit.
Wow.
I want to use amplification equipment, which would normally be against a noise ordinance.
Okay.
Permit. I'm requesting a police presence at my gathering or demonstration. Permit. Okay. But just being in a public place, not bothering anyone, not interacting with anyone, holding a piece of paper with writing on it is not an activity that can be restricted.
Wow.
It's a right to not only free speech, it's not only a right to assembly, it's a right to a redress of grievances, which is another right mentioned in the First Amendment.
Wow.
And so we saw them get a dispersal order. Okay.
Dispersal or disperse.
So what the officer would say, Officer DeHart, the dirty cop, would say, you have 5 minutes to leave the area or be arrested. That's what it was. Because you do not have a permit according to Rome's permitting ordinance.
Okay.
Okay. And so we saw him coming down the street to us, and we were like, all right.
So he had already given the dispersal order to
To
those
them.
people.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And this is maybe 200 feet, 100 feet away from us.
Okay.
Not really in earshot of us,
Okay.
but we could see what was going on.
So just to clarify,
Sure.
so the church that actually had the permit was set up at a completely different location.
Yeah, they were across the river at the other end of downtown.
And then you had another group that was asked to disperse, and then there
Yes.
was the four of you about 100 feet away.
So no, there was two of us.
Okay, just
because
two.
remember, the two citizen journalists
Okay.
were not with us. They were not
Okay.
at any of the protests throughout the day with us.
Okay.
They didn't coordinate with us beforehand as to where we would be.
See.
They didn't coordinate the day of as to where we would be.
This article would lead to believe that it
Right.
did. So I got it. Okay.
Right. And so it was just Angela and I and another individual who ended up filming that portion of the interaction.
Okay.
And so, Officer DeHart comes up to us and says, matter of factly, you don't have a permit. You have 5 minutes to leave or I will arrest you. And we say, we're on public property.
Mm-hmm.
The ordinance doesn't extend onto private property.
Right.
And, he just said, well, the timer is ticking. Okay. And I said, look, we're well within our rights to be here, Angela. Let's take a walk and around deeper into the bank property where we're parked and get in touch with a lawyer. Okay. Get in touch with our lawyer. And so we did that. We stood under one of the trees in the bank's parking lot, and I gave him a call. He wasn't available immediately, so I began writing my message as to what was going on.
Right.
Angela decided to take a walk down the sidewalk toward the levee entrance, which is where the vehicular traffic came into the event.
Okay.
And as I was finishing the message, I saw her walking back with David and Melissa.
Okay.
So she had run into them. They were using a drone to film some of the events from the sky.
Okay.
Okay, and so the drone, I think, had run out of batteries, and they were headed back to David's business, which is in the area, to offload and upload the footage.
Okay.
Okay, so she just happened to run into them. And so as they were getting under the shade tree across the street, I joined them by walking across the street. We talked there for a few minutes. I had already put my signs in the trunk while I was waiting for the lawyer to get back with us.
Okay.
And that's when we were surrounded by about 25 police, and they gave us, they gave Angela actually a dispersal order to clear out in 5 minutes, because she was still holding her sign. But what is she going to do if she throws it? If she throws it down, she was guaranteed to get a littering citation of some sort.
Right.
So she has to hold it. And so she said, "Look, if you're going to arrest me, I'm well within my rights here." And
Gotcha.
When the timer had about 30 seconds to go, I backed up about 8 feet, 10 feet, and began filming. There's plenty of Supreme Court precedents about the right to film police action.
That's correct.
I mean, it's been actually a pretty hot litigation topic over the last decade. And as long as you're back about 10 feet and not interfering with the arrest, well within your rights to record.
Right.
Okay. But the fact that I was recording and that David and Melissa were also 10 feet back, but they were on the public sidewalk.
Right.
The fact that the three of us were filming is probably the real reason we got arrested. Mm-hmm. Because the police were quite
So as soon as you
curious
start
about that.
filming, that's whenever the timer's up.
Right. And
basically.
so they go for her, and then they start coming toward me and go, "Oh, you're going to jail too." And at that point, it's like, well, if they've decided to arrest you, you just basically have to go through the process at that point.
Right.
So I put my phone up from filming. They cuffed me.
Mm-hmm.
The cuffs were so tight that the welt was still there 8 hours later. My wrist is still sore to this day. It's still tender today.
Gotcha.
Almost half a week later. They then cuffed David and Melissa, which I was really shocked by. And then then they put David and me in one car, and David had overheard the conversation between the police where they're all arguing as to who was actually going to sign the arrest paperwork, because none of them wanted to put their badge numbers down and their names down on the paperwork.
Gotcha.
So they finally found one guy that would do it, and he did the paperwork. They took us to jail. They ended up injuring Angela's shoulder by holding her in the position she was in. And then they had us in the intake area for a couple of hours before we were released on our own
Own recognizance? Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, gotcha. Wow. So just to kind of recap a little bit. So you, at no point in time were you resisting arrest.
No.
At no point in time were you not being peaceful.
Right.
And you weren't even in the thick of everything. You were just standing on basically private property.
Right. I mean, and when you'll see in the photos as they're put up, I mean, where we were was desolate. There was no people really, and we had zero interactions with anyone at the Trans Queer Pride event. The only interaction the entire day with anyone from the other side, if you will, was as we were standing with the church group across the river on the other side of downtown at the staging area for the parade. A guy came up and, not in a really a threatening way, was like, "Hey, we're all about love. Come join us." And he said that maybe 2 or 3 times, and the police said, "Hey, go over to your side," essentially. So that was the only interaction throughout the entire day with any of those folks.
Okay. So did you all get to see the parade at all?
So when Angela and I were at the location where the church group, which is an Anglican church, Reverend Goggins, where he was put on that street corner at the staging location of the parade, we did see the initial takeoff of the parade.
Okay.
Which was over, as you can imagine.
Right.
5 minutes, 10 minutes at the most.
Well, that was the point. The point.
Well, that was the point. The
Right.
point was to make the icky Christians and the icky conservatives go away.
Right.
And oh, go ahead.
No, it's exactly what it sounds like. It sounds like they were ready and prepared to just shield off anybody who might have any sort of protest against it.
Right. And there's some good nuggets of background here. The Rome City Police Department was on the payroll of the Trans Queer Pride for providing private security.
Right.
So it creates an incredible conflict of interest that you're receiving thousands of dollars from one group and then suppressing the speech of those opposed to that group.
Right.
Right.
Right. Well, I do understand that, and also I'm in sort of being in bail bonding, so I know that anybody can hire officers for anything.
Sure.
So it's perfectly legal to do.
It is
so.
legal.
I totally get that. However, and I had came across a story about how they were talking. This group that put it on was talking about how many thousands of dollars it costs for security and all these things, as if people are trying to gun them down and all this stuff. I mean, it's kind of insane.
Really.
So,
Right. No one.
Yeah.
In no area in view of Angela and I was there any sort of interaction.
Right.
Of any sort.
And what was your purpose for going there?
So I mean, that's a great question because last year we had middle-aged men dressed in Salvation Army women's clothing and Party City wigs doing sexualized dances, strip teases for children, and having children tip them as if they're strippers, and this was right. And you have to ask yourself, what sort of middle-aged man dresses as a woman and specifically is requesting and seeking out an audience of children, because their promotional material over and over said, "Bring your children, family friendly, bring your children who want your children,"
Right.
So, that was a problem for us. Okay. And the targeting of children, a clip that went viral the last couple of days from New York Pride has the Pride marchers chanting, "We're coming for your children.
For your children, we're coming for your shopping.
For your children."
Yeah.
Then the San Francisco Gay Men's Choir the year before last year's
they did the song.
They did a song called "We're Coming for Your Children."
Yeah.
So and then we've got media publications like Slate trying to normalize what they call minor attracted persons, or what normal people call pedophiles. So there's this movement to have love at any age, and these sorts of things. And that's something that, normal people are opposed to.
Right.
We're not the extremists. The people wanting to mutilate the genitalia of children, the people wanting to normalize sex with children, they're the extreme people. They're the abnormal people. And people have to start standing up. And we couldn't allow that to go on in a small 70% Trump county
Right.
in Appalachian, Georgia.
Right.
I mean, it had to be answered. And our answer was to, at the very least, stand there with pieces of paper with counter messages on it. And none of the messaging was in any way about anyone's identity, any adult's identity. There was nothing anti-gay, anti-lesbian, even anti-trans. The message was simply about the mutilation of children, the targeting of children, the involvement of children.
So let me get this straight.
Sure.
So you guys sound to me like you're not really out there protesting somebody's sexual identity or anything like that, or that you're throwing hate at somebody who might be gay or even transgender. It sounds to me like you're more worried about the children.
Absolutely.
Right.
Okay,
They're
well,
trying to normalize mental illness.
Yes.
That's the problem.
Absolutely, and in many, many ways. And
I actually had a conversation with a quick little conversation with somebody on Facebook, and you can tell that they have a mental issue, and they believe by changing their appearance, it's going to cure what they have going on in their brain.
right.
And it's really sad because this person was a very attractive, beautiful little young lady, honestly, and what she's done to herself, it's really sad.
Now she's a bearded lady.
What you used to
Yeah,
see
I
at the
mean,
circus, it's
I've
incredible.
always kind of been to each their own. I've
Yeah.
lived my entire life by you do you and I'll do me. Just don't hurt the children and don't hurt the animals. You know?
I mean, you feel. I mean, if you hear these detransition stories, they are heartbreaking. Hearing the males that have had their genitalias cut off, and the females that now have a lowered voice and have hair in places that women are not supposed to have hair, and it's heartbreaking for them. But we're not talking about those adults making those decisions, and those people are oftentimes people with a lot of problems, and they're promised if they go through this trans medical industry process, they're going to be a new person, a different person, and they get to the end of it, and they're not, and their bodies are broken. I mean, if you know anything about the sexual reassignment surgeries, the what they call bottom surgeries, they're horrific. They're horrific. The female analog, it's anyway. I won't get into it, but look it up, guys. Look it up.
It's sort of like it's a greater sign of our culture. We're it's almost like we're breeding this new generation where they don't understand self-responsibility. They don't understand the projection to blame everything and everybody else but themselves, and then this notion that everybody gets the trophy and that you're somebody special and you can be whatever you want, and it creates this. It's almost like a degradation of society. And
we live in a victimhood culture.
No victim, yes.
And there's a very easy explanation for what's going on psychologically with that. When you strip people of their religion, of their culture, of pride in their country, if you strip all of the structures that throughout human history have given people meaning and given people pathways to go down in life, if you strip that away, you leave people in utter chaos. And the left believes they're liberating people by removing all these structures, but they're really condemning people to chaos. And so the victimhood mindset is about becoming a bottle tossed in the ocean, because all of these choices now put on you are overwhelming. And so if you adopt a victimhood framing, that absolves you of having to make those choices.
Sure.
So that's the dynamic there.
Absolutely. It's scary. It's scary where we're at as a civilization, and how far that we've just fallen from just normal things,
Right.
normal things that make an everyday civilization work. And and then they use these things to pit us against each other, you know, and just like we were talking right before we went on about how they want to project this image, but at the same time, and to hide what the reality is.
Right.
And then if you question it, they come back with all these, well, you're extremism and you're hateism, you're transphobia and homophobia and all the cliched words that we use.
I'm tired of it.
You know,
I
it
just
is.
hate everybody the same.
Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, sure. Now, I've got to ask this question because there's more articles, and there was a rather scathing article that came out from like a local Floyd County paper. I read it, and the big question that people would say, especially people who would question all of this, is so. According to the story, you guys knew ahead of time that this time you were going to have a permit. So the question that anybody would ask is, why didn't you guys go ahead and get a permit? Now, I know you've already laid it out, but that's what they're going to say. Why didn't you get a permit?
Well, if you
I don't need it.
You don't.
you don't need it.
There
If
you
you
go.
read that ordinance from the very first paragraph, it starts off with unconstitutional provisions. Okay. From the very first paragraph, it says, any assembly of any person for any purpose, whether in a vehicle or on foot, with animals, without animals, with signs, without signs, any common purpose, it says. Even, depending on how you read it, even one person, what they call an assembly in there. And then they say there's these other events that are exempt. So that's already unconstitutional because you're saying certain types of expression are fine and not covered. Even if they have 500, 1,000 people at them, they're not covered. And then one person, holding a piece of paper with writing on it is covered. I mean, from the very beginning, it's unconstitutional. But you can see as to what they did with the church group that the permit talk is all a smokescreen. As soon as you submit to them for permission to speak, they say, well, you're going to do it where we say, in the manner we say, at the time we say.
Gotcha.
Okay. And that's all illegitimate. Okay. At a certain point, you have to say, a law that's unconstitutional is void, and it's as if it doesn't exist.
Right.
An invalid law has no force of law. There's no way to submit legally a permit application to an illegal ordinance.
Sure.
Okay.
I got you. And you bring up a great point here. That's exactly what it is. And the only people who are going to follow that are the ones that are, just going with the crowd and being told, right? But but everything points to, well, this was an ordinance. This was already in place. But you didn't have to have one last year, right? Yeah. But it seems like this year, not only did you have to have one, but you were strategically placed in certain areas as so that you would not be able to even be effective for your message.
Which is illegal.
That was the point.
Sure. That was the point.
Okay.
You're referring to the Fake News Tribune of Rome, their article.
That was a rough one to read. I was getting a little mad. I'm like, wait a minute.
It was written by Diane Wagner, who is a Democrat, and I was actually very embarrassed for Diane Wagner. I've known Diane Wagner for about 20 years. I was really taken aback by how not that it had a leftist bent, but that it was totally factually inaccurate.
Well, that's my point.
So over and over again, it makes total factual errors. And they just essentially took already the police's damage control the next day. They took all of that and swallowed it hook, line, and sinker, and it's not even accurate.
So the original article I read, it didn't say why y'all were arrested. It never said why y'all were arrested. So I asked the question to my people. I said, hey, does anybody know what happened here? If this was a peaceful protest, why were they arrested? And so I got the article sent to me, and I was like, whoa, okay. And it was a completely on the other side, scathing review article about what happened, but it did say that it was because of without a permit.
Right.
And of course,
that's the pretext.
People are arguing about that as well. I think you've laid it out pretty well.
Right.
And now that you have laid this out, we're letting the people know, and there will be a lot of people that are going to go back and watch this. Where do you stand in court if you can talk about it? So what's your next step? Both of you guys have a court date, sure. I'm sure.
So the two of us, activists, and the two citizen journalists, David and Melissa, have a court date on the 3rd
Yes.
Is that
Third of
right?
August.
The 3rd. Okay. The charges are up to 90 days in prison and $5,000 fines for each of us. Or something like 4 months of like gang labor on the city's landscaping crews or something like that. Like breaking rocks or something.
Okay.
So-
Now, are you guys prepared for like a bench trial, or are you going to take it to a jury trial, or how are you?
So the charges, and I was interested the way they charged us. So they charged us in such a way that we're going to municipal court, and they've done that strategically. 'Cause-
Civil. So this
Well,
is
yeah, it's
not
not. It is a
criminal,
criminal.
it's-
It is a criminal.
it's a criminal offense, but it's going to be held in
Right.
municipal court, so that would
Right.
make it civil, correct?
No, it would still say a criminal because anytime you're talking about
Or maybe
possibly confining someone to a jail cell, it's a criminal.
Okay.
Hearing.
Okay,
Right?
okay.
And so, it's really, it's really interesting under Georgia law. In the Georgia Constitution, you have a right at all times in any kind of proceeding like that to trial by jury.
Okay.
But there's some sort of weird provision right now in the Georgia Code that if you're charged in municipal court, they try to stop you from accessing your right to a jury.
Right.
So that might actually, besides the First Amendment issues at stake, besides the Second Amendment issues at stake, which we actually probably need to mention in a moment, there's Fourth and Fifth Amendment issues because they didn't read our Miranda rights, so that might possibly be a problem for them, depending. And then there's 14th Amendment issues. So there's all of those constitutional questions, on top of what's already going on.
Okay. Wow.
So, and then Dave, one of the citizen journalists, was concealed carrying.
Okay.
And so
okay.
Rome's ordinance,
Yes.
another way that the Rome ordinance is both unconstitutional and at odds with Georgia state law is that it purports to ban anyone from concealed carrying or open carrying while they're using their First Amendment rights.
Really?
Right.
This is a Floyd County ordinance?
It is, yes.
Yes. Which their attorney is well aware that it violates.
Oh, yeah, that's a
They're
great... So, yeah, I did want to touch on that.
Wow.
If you do read the Rome Fake News Tribune's article, it has the police spokesman saying, well, we called them in a couple of months ago to explain to them the need for a permit and, what the consequences would be, blah, 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 blah. Does that sound reasonable, folks? Did the police call people in to lecture them about the law?
Right.
That didn't happen.
No.
The meeting they're describing, very dishonestly, in fact, is Angela and I and a few others went with the evidence of all that had gone on, all of the law breaking last year. It's illegal under city ordinances to tip dancers. You've got public indecency being violated. You've got corruption of minors being violated. And we said, all this went on. Why didn't you charge anybody or just stop it even? Just stop it even.
Right.
And they said, well, it's actually our fault. Even though the event had plenty of police at it, it was our fault. It's our job to go through the event and call 911 for each violation and report it.
What?
And so that's the reason they didn't enforce the law, because it was our job as citizens to report the crime.
So
And we
they
can't
told
look back on last year.
And then they said, well, let's not look back.
look
Let's
back.
only go forward.
Yes.
We
Sounds
don't want
a
to
lot
talk
like
about...
elections,
it
right?
kind of sounds
Right.
like yeah.
So you can
Oh,
imagine
Lord.
why they're describing it as, we called them in to talk about permits. We called them in to talk about permits. It's like, no, we requested a meeting with you to ask you why you're not doing your job.
Exactly.
Okay, it's not our job
Wow.
to enforce the law.
So you requested the meeting.
We requested the meeting, and we were making them very angry by pointing out the fact that they're
But they were
allowing...
not happy we were there.
They were very unhappy
Oh my
we were
goodness,
there.
we cut the
And
tent
this
with
was...
a knife.
And DeHart was in that room. Dirty cop DeHart was in the room. McKinney was in the room. All the senior police leadership was in that room.
Okay.
And DeHart said he talks to the trans crew organizers every week and has done so for, I think, a year since the previous event. He finds them to be extremely reasonable people. So this is a guy that feels like people engaging in grooming of children is very reasonable. And throughout the meeting, he's insinuating that we're some type of domestic terrorist, and that he's warning us we better not harm the trans queers.
That's right, yeah. Don't get in their face with your camera.
You know,
Right.
don't get violent with them.
Right.
You know, and
Right.
as if, you know, we're going, what is this nut job
Right.
talking about? You know, the only thing we've ever done is hold a piece of paper with writing on it.
Wow.
Nothing. We don't interact with them. We don't scream at them. We don't gesture to them.
You're just-
Nothing.
You're just
Hold a
your
piece of
First
paper.
Amendment. Yeah, you're
Like,
just
yeah.
going there and
when they say
protest.
peacefully, it was
Like
literally
you're not burning
peacefully.
down Wendy's or you know.
No graffiti.
Right.
Nothing. It's insane.
It sounds
There was
pretty
no
wild to
burning,
me.
looting, and murdering
Yeah.
as the left does.
Well, maybe if we were dressed up as trans and then holding the sign, maybe. It would
Right.
Be okay.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe I
it
needed.
would have been okay.
Maybe I
Wow.
needed a pair of fishnets
I
and
think
and a cheap wig from Party City, and I'd been like,
This
you
sounds-
wouldn't dare arrest me now, would you?
It's ridiculous. The whole thing's ridiculous. And furthermore, I'd like to tell you how much I appreciate you standing up and appreciate you being the people that are willing to take this like it's coming at you. You know, because so many people won't stand up, and so many people think that we're all crazy. And you know, and then the aspect of this is if we're the type of people that even get up to speak about this or anything, that we're just transphobic and you know, we know that's all BS.
No.
We know that's all, you know, we're in this flipped upside down world where you can't even have conversations.
That's
you know,
right. And the
And
thing
it's-
is, we've said it plenty of times at commission meetings, Rome City Commission meetings. It
Sure.
has nothing to do with the LGB. It's the rest of the alphabet
Exactly.
soup and pushing this mental illness on the kids.
Yeah,
You know,
and
Floyd
do
County
you-
has it in the schools.
oh yes, it's all over the state of Georgia.
Absolutely.
You know, do you think that this is a natural evolution, or do you think that these are very carefully crafted, you know, culture attacks? How
This
do you feel
is
about this?
all coming out of what's called, I mean, people have heard of critical race theory. There's an analog to that dealing with sexuality and gender called critical queer theory. Okay, and that's not a slur, that's what they call themselves. Okay, and that originated in the 1980s with Gail Rubin, wrote the initial foundational theory papers on, you know, laying
Gail
out
Rubin.
critical queer theory. And in those papers, in the very first foundational essays on critical queer theory, over and over and over again, she's talking about sex with children, normalizing sex with children. Critical queer theory seeks to queer society, which means to dissolve all distinctions between the sexes and basically turn everyone into like gray goo. Okay.
Which is perfect when you add in the transhumanist agenda.
Yes,
for
it
the
is part
future,
of that.
so.
Yes.
That's right.
And so,
Absolutely.
if you want to know more about critical queer theory, James Lindsay, Dr. James Lindsay, who's from Knoxville, Tennessee, so
Yes.
not far from here, has done a series on Gail Rubin's writings, 3-part series on his podcast. And he's also done a special episode on the topic of Drag Queen Story Hour. So we were
Absolutely.
actually able to get Drag Queen Story Hour canceled for this year's event because we had put pressure on the sponsors, because a lot of the sponsors in town, a lot of these small businesses were approached with, you support gay people, right? You're not against
course.
the gays, right?
Of course.
And they have no idea all this stuff with children is going on. You know, all this weirdo stuff in public, all this debauchery
Sure.
in public. Like at this year's event, you know, as I described by Kusabelli News, there's sexual acts going on in front of children, sexualized acts. One of our folks that was walking the event said there was a man walking around with shorts cut off so short that the ends of his genitalia were hanging out the bottom of it in full view of children.
Right.
You know, you have all the nasty sexualized dances of the drag
Well, I
queens.
mean, see, that's the whole point. If there were none of this sexualization, but that is the core principle
is
of
the
this
core.
movement, and that's what makes it so sadistic, and that's what makes people so upset. You know, I can't understand why that you just can't be what you're going to be. You know, it's not like we have a heterosexual parade, and
Right.
we've talked about these things before all over, but it's all about sexualizing, and
it's about
they try to-
weaponizing identity for
Yes.
the leftist cause.
It is, and the
Of
thing
tearing
is
down
that
society.
what these these people don't know that they're trapped in this mindset is
Right.
that there will be the first people,
Yes.
that will be the ones to be attacked. They'll be the ones to be corralled. They're the ones to be, everything will be taken away from them.
Right.
And I
This
can't
is all of
understand
this is part of cultural Marxism.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you look at, and it's a type of a Maoism is basically the model that the left is following in this
Yes.
country at this point. They're a Maoist revolutionary force. And
Yes.
if you look at what Mao did when he finally used these revolutionary elements of society to pull down the structures of society,
Absolutely.
he rounded up all of these activists and he put a bullet in their head.
And he took away the
Okay.
guns and controlled the food and starved
right.
millions and millions and
About
millions
60
of people.
million people were
Yeah.
killed
And
in the communist
we talk about
regime.
these things as soon I can finish the sentence as you start, but you would not believe how many people
Right.
still don't know about the Maoism and Stalinism and all this. We learned about the Jews and the Nazis and the German War, and there's so many atrocities that happened under the guise of Marxism and socialism and communism. Yet this whole movement here is just, that's where the founding principles
I
are.
mean, we have people in the Floyd Republican Party defending
That's right.
these unconstitutional elections and
Sure.
saying,
I understand.
why don't you just submit to an illegal,
And that's
unconstitutional?
That's pretty scary to me,
law?
Yeah.
it's,
Why would you be out there protesting this?
Now, this is a rumor, and
Yeah.
I want to speculate because we are going to start getting into comments here in a minute. But
Sure.
I just want to speculate that this is a rumor. But you feel free to ask because it's a rumor. But I was told by a couple of different sources that the Floyd County GOP actually publicly stated to their people to stand down. Is
So-
there any relevance to that?
Oh, this is absolutely true.
yes, that was.
Are you all a part of the Floyd County?
We are
GOP?
members.
Okay.
Yes.
We
But
actually.
that actually was last year.
This
Oh,
was
okay.
last year.
That was last
That was
year.
They were
last year
very.
they were
They were
asked to
very upset
Ah.
Yes.
that we were going to protest.
The Floyd County
Very
GOP
upset.
was upset because you were going to protest.
You know, that it was an embarrassment, that we would be playing into the left's hands
Yeah, don't
by
play
not
into
fighting the
it.
left.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
the way the left wins is you fight them.
We wouldn't be in
So
this
if you don't
mess.
fight the left, as you just let the left do whatever they want, that's
Wow.
winning to them.
Wow.
And that's why the conservative movement, for the most part, over the past 50 years, has conserved nothing.
Well, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Every decade you go back we've gone forward has been less conservative. Okay.
Well,
Okay.
sure.
They've
I
conserved
mean,
nothing because
that's why
they're
you have-
spineless cowards.
That's why you have organizations like the GRA and
Right.
Voter Georgia, the things that are going against the grain of
Right.
the establishment Republican Party. And then, of course, the Empire striking back. They don't want to give up the power. They don't want to go that route. And so now we've got our own people within our own ranks that are trying to call us names because the word rhino was used. And so, and then they're trying
If
to
you don't
blame
like the word, don't live up to it.
People are finger pointing at each other like you're tearing the party apart. I disagree.
No.
I think this fighting is absolutely healthy, and I believe that people like the sitting beside me and things that we're doing and other people are doing, if we don't get up and we don't stand up against this and we let them run all over us, then what do you expect is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen to our culture and our society and the children?
That's right.
It's Brian Kemp dividing the Republican Party of Georgia. Brian Kemp is the one starting alternatives to the GOP.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
And it was Brian Kemp that ran as a MAGA candidate and delivered 100% the opposite: Chamber of Commerce, conserve nothing, concentrate on the GDP, let everything else fall apart, conservatism.
Well, that's where they get that
Okay.
Hollywood money coming in.
Right. I mean, you wouldn't believe the conversations I've had with these moron state rep and state senators down there at the Capitol going, oh, we have to have more Hollywood people in here. I mean, it's making the GDP numbers go up
I
in
gotta pay
Atlanta.
Gotta pay my Jaguar off.
That's right.
Right? I mean, it's mind-numbing. These people are idiots. They're cowards. They're fools. We've got to get rid of them.
And we do.
We need to clear them out.
We do, and I think that I don't know if you guys. And this is a little off topic. I don't know if you know the story or not, but was just brought down today. Spalding County.
Yes.
Spalding County.
Great victory.
They just rescinded their election money for the Dominion voting system. They're going to be
Yes.
using paper ballots. And
That's great.
I'm
Wonderful.
hearing there's going to be a second county, so I'm really hoping this catches on.
Absolutely.
And my thoughts are to all the people who say move along and we need to forget. Well, then this is a win-win because guess what? We get paper ballots and we are going to even more so minimize voter fraud. And we don't have to worry about Dominion. So, hey, what are you complaining about? It's a win-win. Sure. You know, they don't want to look at it like that, though.
Well, I mean, these people that are election fraud deniers, you know, these conspiracy theorists that deny the obvious fraud going on, okay, you know, I tell them, I say, look, the purpose of an election system is to confer legitimate successors. And if people don't have confidence in your system because it's so wacky and complex, then your election system has failed.
Yeah.
Period. We don't even have to get into the details.
Yeah. You have options. Oh, we can go back to paper ballots and hand counting.
This is a very easy problem to solve.
Yeah, it is. It's not like
it's amazing.
Anything.
It really
everybody should be on top of that.
It really makes one think. All the activism on this issue, the fix is so simple. It makes you think, why is Brian Kemp and the people in the General Assembly, why are they so afraid of paper ballots? I mean, they have fought tooth and nail for 4 years to keep those machines for some reason. Right. It's rather suspicious, some would say.
It is. I made a post exactly about that today. And furthermore, a lot of people don't know this. I've actually covered this. But, you know, after Dominion, I believe it was the first 2 years that Dominion was contracted with Georgia. Georgia had to pay, the capital paid for all of these things. And then after that, it all rescinded back down to each county election commission. And so the taxpayers have to fund the upkeep. They have to fund the machinery and everything that goes along with it. So by rights, it should be every county's election board commission that can do away with Dominion. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people don't know that. We need to get that word out, see?
And people don't realize that the state of Georgia, under this current system, is not capable of running its own elections. Every single county, every single election cycle has to have tons of contractors working for Dominion voting systems running around administering the system.
Proprietary contractors.
Yes. Totally unavailable to be open records requested. Totally black box in terms of the voters. So what you see as the face of voting with the elections boards and the election workers, they don't actually run the election.
Sure.
Dominion Corporation runs democracy in Georgia.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, it's State Street Capital because State Street bought Dominion Corporation, so it's bought by a financial corporation. So it's not even.
I think that's a move that Stalin would.
I mean, this is laughable, y'all.
I think that's a move Stalin would certainly appreciate because being in the position of being the vote, counter,
absolutely,
it seems to be a very valuable thing to have.
Okay, well, we're going to move on to some comments here. We're not going to stay on maybe about 10 more minutes, so I'm going to skip just a few to get through everything. Ray Blankenship, when is the lawsuit coming down the pipe?
Well, we can't really discuss future moves according to counsel, but watch this space. So you can follow Brad Barnes GA on pretty much every social media you can think of, and the updates are going to be flying. I mean, there's been a lot of movement, a lot of conversations behind the scenes the last couple of days with all manner of organizations, all manner of lawyers, all manner of public officials throughout the state. I mean, we had people contacting us from down in Savannah area. I mean, all over the state. I've had, probably 12 hours on the phone the past 3 days. So there's a lot of movement you're about to see. Follow Brad Barnes GA on Facebook, Twitter, etc.
Okay. Race, this is the exact reason we got constitutional carry, no permit to exercise your rights.
That's
Amen.
Right. Except in the city of Rome while the First Amendment's being activated.
Right. Lisa Adams, I protested last year. I've got the videos. Yes.
Please get in touch, Lisa. We would definitely like those.
Absolutely. I'll make sure that no matter. I think I know that y'all know Lisa. Yes. We'll make sure. Absolutely. Ray Blankenship, I hired security for Marjorie's rally in Ringgold when we threw her a gun rally. The county deputy was instructed by me to keep order and do their job according to the law. They were great by helping us out, and it was a flawless event, and everything went well. And we all never always appreciate that what you guys did and what you're doing, Ray.
Sure. I mean, we're quite big fans of law enforcement.
Sure.
When we had the Back the Blue rally in Rome, Georgia, there were exactly 2 candidates or elected officials that bothered showing up to support law enforcement in Rome and Floyd County, and it was me and it was Marjorie Taylor Greene, and not one county commissioner, not one city commissioner. Katie Dempsey wasn't there. Chuck Huffstetler wasn't there. None of the others were there. It was Brad Barnes and Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Wow.
The same thing when they took down our Confederate statues.
Oh, yes.
None of them spoke out except Brad Barnes and Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Absolutely. Lisa, we don't care who you love or what you do in your bedroom. Leave our children alone.
Absolutely.
Man, couldn't say it 100%. I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about here. Lisa, do you need a permit for your permit? How many folks does a permit cover? How many permits can be issued for one event? And you know what? I had some permit questions, but they answered it right off the bat about not needing a permit.
One amazing feature of the permit ordinance that is mind-blowing: if you make the mistake of going through this permitting process, okay, you agree in signing that form to be held liable for anyone showing up to the event and causing any kind of damage to anything. So you can imagine in this day and age, as a conservative, you have Antifa show up, or people from this trans queer thing, which if you'll look at pictures of the parade, they have signs that say kill all fascists. And to them, anyone that's not a communist is a fascist. So they mean kill all of us.
Right.
Okay, so if any of those people show up to your permitted protest, smash up stuff, the city's going to present you with a $50,000, $80,000 bill. You're potentially losing your house.
Right.
Because you've pre-agreed to that.
Exactly.
You know?
It's a pitfall. Tyler brings up a good point. Didn't they pass a Second Amendment resolution? Did they not pass one in Floyd County? I believe they did. I'm almost certain. I know that they have at least.
I thought they were rather
a
resistant
resolution
to that, actually.
No, Floyd County was one of them. I
Okay,
remember.
good.
Floyd County passed a Second Amendment resolution, so you know that they're behind.
Right.
I have one mounted right here. This is from our Walker County, so you know,
Okay,
same
good.
They're
same
behind
thing.
it, just don't use it.
Gotcha. Exactly.
Right.
It was
Yes.
just a piece of paper, right?
Right.
All
Just
right.
don't be speaking or holding a
Right.
sign while.
Tyler Martin, sounds like Rome is close to flipping blue. Well, you never know.
So the way that the city commission is organized, you have about 2,000 people showing up to vote out of an electorate of about 20,000. Don't quote me on that, but that's a rough estimate. So it's and then the elections happen on odd years, unlike most normal elections. So they're extremely low turnout, and so this has produced us having about 5 or 6 members that are hardcore leftists on the Rome City Commission.
Right.
Even though the county, Floyd County, is a 70%.
Predominantly Republican.
Yeah, it's a 70%
conservative.
Republican voting county.
Gotcha.
You know.
Okay. Ray Blankenship, they can't create a law that the state doesn't approve. Another reason that we are pushing for SEPA. Absolutely, Ray. We are pushing for SEPA. Tyler, I mean, even Obama granted us the ability to carry a national force. Yes, absolutely correct. Let's see. Tyler Martin, Ray says all based on Marxism. Tyler Martin says it all stems from critical theory that was created by a group of communists to divide the populace. Absolutely 100%. Right. So, Angie Kittle, good to see you, Angie. It should get thrown out just on not being Mirandized. Yep, that's more than likely. I'm sure they left some loopholes open. So.
It was almost like they were trying to craft the perfect test case. I mean, it's like they went down. I mean, they violated the right to religion.
Obviously, they put in some thought into this. You
know?
know?
They violated the church's right to religion, the right to freedom of assembly, right to freedom of speech, right to redress of grievances, right to the press by arresting David and Melissa. And then for a bonus, they're like, well, we'll go after the Second Amendment too.
Right. So I don't know if you can answer this, and I'm not asking you to answer this. This was a comment. Who in the Floyd GOP told you to submit to taking this on the chin?
Do you want to say?
Yeah, I mean.
That's completely up to you.
No, it was Jamie Palmer, unfortunately.
Jamie Palmer?
Which I was very disappointed.
What was his reasoning, if you don't mind me asking? Just because he didn't want to, I mean, was he trying to save face?
I'm going to be honest. I the moment he said, don't go out there, and nothing was entering into my brain anymore because I was just completely shocked.
I see.
And Melissa was actually there with me when that happened. So
Wow.
I said, listen, you do whatever you want, but we're going.
Okay, understood. Like I said, that was a question, and you answered it. Like I said, and I understand what you mean by the implications of being shocked. So obviously, so.
And I mean, one of the most unseemly things about all this is that while we were planning and doing our signs this week, getting ready to do this protest that would eventually lead to our arrest in defense of the Constitution, Floyd GOP was meeting behind closed doors to amend the rules of the party without any input from the members of the party, just the leadership, so that we could not run for party office next year. They were putting in procedural barriers to Angela and I running for board positions on Floyd GOP.
Wow.
Because we had the temerity as members, which is our right, to run for board positions at the county convention this year.
Wow.
And so they were spending their time worried about us and preventing true conservative activists from being on the board. And we were worried about the country, the Constitution, and our children.
It sounds a whole lot like this last state convention too.
Right? And
Good
the
Lord.
rules were put...
It's not funny, but you
And
know.
if you want to find more about that,
Yes.
Jamie Palmer and Justin Kelly. The rules, my understanding is these rules are the brainchild of Justin Kelly, who works right now for Marjorie Taylor Greene. But they have a podcast with 50 viewers, and they did an episode on some of the rule changes. So check that out if you want to know.
Will
about
do.
that.
In fact, I'll make sure to get the link so I can check that out. So, wow. Okay. All right. Moving along. Angie, GOP suppressing speech. Why am I not surprised?
Yeah.
Yes. Lisa, don't put that horn on your face if you don't live up to the right name. Oh Lord. Southern Girl, Georgia
True.
Peach. Roy, can you see comments on your YouTube live stream? No, I cannot. Wait a minute. Yo, I can. Yes, you are from YouTube. So yes, absolutely. Southern Girl, Georgia Peach. Hello, Angela, Brad, and Roy. Hey, hello to you. Jennifer Tudor. I'm not so sure if Floyd County passed the resolution. I believe they were one who didn't. You know, that's a good question, Jen. We'll
I
do
think
some research
Jennifer
on it.
might be right because I remember them being resistant to it. Chris Ashley put together an amazing
You know, now that
Second
y'all
Amendment
mention it,
rally in Rome that
Yes.
I had gone to.
I think that was the first one ever. Was Marjorie there? That was back when
yes,
she was
Marjorie
first,
was there. Marjorie was there. That was
Yeah.
her first
That-
campaign cycle.
First time we had
And
that up.
if I remember correctly, Floyd GOP was against that as well. But
Of course they were, because they were for what's his name?
Cowan,
Cowan.
John Cowan. All the leadership of Floyd GOP.
Well, I mean, that's the
are
way it
Cowan
worked
people.
back then. You know, they already had the runners up like bowling pins, and then we
Oh, yeah.
came and just screwed
All
up.
of Floyd GOP. All of Floyd GOP are.
Well, no wonder they're
Yeah.
all mad.
Yeah, they're all big Katie Dempsey supporters. Katie Dempsey being the most notorious
Right.
lobbyist-controlled rhino in Northwest Georgia. I mean,
Right.
they can't get enough of her. They love Katie Dempsey. So so then they went against Marjorie as well.
Of course. Yeah.
You know.
Lord have mercy. We don't want to get caught up on Marjorie tonight. We'll
Oh, no.
we'll save that for another time.
Yeah.
Shelley Walker says hi from Ringgold, and so far that is all the comments. So we're running a little past, so we'll get off here in a minute. So what I'd like to do is give each one of you an opportunity to just tell the viewers out there, like, how can we support what you're doing, and like, just what do you want to tell people?
Well, first, we just want to say how incredibly thankful we are. All of the support that's poured out and all of the comment sections and emails and text messages and lots of phone calls. I mean, that means a lot to us. I mean, that we're not in this fight alone.
Right.
Okay. And I can't say that enough. We want, as far as what you can do to help, we are accepting donations because this fight is unfortunately going to require a lot of resources.
Understood.
You can check out our social media, Etowah RA on Facebook, Brad Barnes GA on Facebook and everywhere else for information on how you can donate. We're asking every patriot in the state that can get to Rome for the next Rome City Commission meeting to come to show overwhelmingly that this type of blatant violation is not going to sit unchallenged by the citizenry.
Right.
Okay, and that's going to be on July 10th.
Yes.
Okay.
And come at 5 p.m. The meeting starts at 6 p.m.
Okay. All right. Good deal. Good deal. And Angela, what would you like to say?
Oh goodness, I mean, I think Brad pretty much covered it, but I think a lot of people got to start getting involved themselves
Yes.
in their communities.
Yes.
If you want to see a change, be the change.
Yeah.
Absolutely
you know,
correct.
Being behind that keyboard and saying how mad you are, that's not really going to change anything.
That's right.
You have to go out there and
All right.
do
You
the
got
work.
to protect your community.
That's right.
You got to protect your families. You've got to network together and get involved.
And it's
you know.
fun.
Absolutely.
Doing the Lord's work is fun. You know, and at a certain point, silence becomes betrayal. At a certain
I
point,
agree.
if you have these values and you have these beliefs, you have to put them into action.
Yeah. Well, they're not only that, but and I don't want to get off on a tangent, but they're forcing our hands.
Absolutely.
You
Yes.
know?
No, absolutely.
They're forcing people who normally want to be left alone to have to stand up and get involved. And I'm pretty sure, without even going into too much detail, you know, we're in phase 1 of this digital ID and this
Central bank digital
transhumanistic
currency.
future that we're talking about, the central banking digital currency, which we cover a lot on here because no matter what's happening politically, they're 10 steps ahead of us, and they are twisting our arms to
Yes.
have to stand up and say enough is enough all the time.
We just want to be left alone, and they're not going to leave us alone.
Yeah.
So we have to.
They're not
make,
gonna leave
we
your
have to
family
make.
alone.
We have to make them leave us alone.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think that's kind of what, I mean, me personally, what led to Saturday. I was just, I
Right.
had enough.
Right.
I'm done being quiet.
Yeah.
I'm not a child anymore. You're not going to put your thumb on me. Let's
Right.
do it.
Well, we certainly do appreciate it. And like I said, you guys were peaceful. You just went to this as protesters like anybody else would, and you were arrested. You were arrested or what I consider false pretenses, and I certainly hope that you have the support and everything that you need to laugh in the face of Floyd County for what they put you and the 2 other journalists through. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
But mostly, we thank you for being on the show. Now, of course, after I'm going to be connecting with y'all in the future, and I will support everything y'all are doing. And you've already said, is there any place that people can go to support you?
Oh, me. Oh, goodness. No, not really. I mean.
Okay, well,
Come, show up,
Yes.
support Angela
There you go.
in person.
Yes.
July 10th.
Numbers.
Be there 5 p.m. The meeting starts at 6
yeah,
p.m.
and you've got the Etowah Republican
That's right.
Party, the Floyd County GOP.
Right.
Get involved in your local politics. If you don't
Yeah.
like what's going on, if you don't agree with what we've said here, go there. Go to the Floyd GOP. Get involved.
Right,
Show
get yourself
up.
a rhino horn.
Yeah, whatever. But do it. If you cannot sit on your hands any
That's right.
longer. You can't do it.
That's been
So.
the biggest issue.
Yes, it is. Folks, thank y'all so much for coming
you
on
for
this
having
show,
us.
especially at short
It's been a
notice.
pleasure.
I do. I appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much.
Guys, every Wednesday night, 9 o'clock. Don't forget, tomorrow in Lafayette, Georgia, 6:30 p.m. at the Lafayette Square. We're doing Tactical Civics. Show up, bring a friend, find out what Tactical Civics is all about. And everybody out there, just be safe. Have a great evening. Thank you for all the participation, everybody.